my professor, Richard Evans Schultes at Harvard, the legendary Amazonian explorer, the man who sparked the psychedelic era with his discovery of the so-called magic mushrooms in Mexico in 1938, he was an interesting character because he was an odd figure to become iconic in the 1960s because his politics were wildly conservative. He didn't vote for the Republican Party. He professed not to believe in the American Revolution. He always voted for Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. In fact, one of his colleagues once said the only way for Schultes to go native would be to go to London. But he always cautioned us as we went to the Amazon to remember the adage of the Swiss scholar Paracelsus, who said that the difference between a poison, a medicine, and a narcotic is simply dosage. And so we were always on the outlook for any biodynamic plant, and that led us into the realm of the shaman. Here, for example, an old friend of mine and the Kofan people manipulating the flying death, curare, the arrow poisons, which of course, as you know, in the 1940s yielded the alkaloid D-tubocurarine, the muscle relaxant that revolutionized surgery. But in working in the realm of botany, invariably we came into the domain of the shaman. The shaman's been a much misunderstood figure, and if you follow the work of those legendary anthropologists such as Shirley MacLaine, you would think that the shaman is a sort of benign grandfather figure who sings and recites prayers and flutters bells and feathers. I've been with a lot of shaman in my life, and I've never met one that wasn't psychotic. I mean, that's their job. As Joseph Campbell said, they're the ones who go into the mystic waters the rest of us want to evade and avoid as we raise our children. They're the ones who go into these metaphysical spaces. And to understand the shamanic art of healing, you have to understand that in these societies, disease is not defined as a state of pathogens, but a state of imbalance or disequilibrium. And the essential healing art of the shaman is one in which the shaman must address that imbalance and restore harmony and equilibrium. And to do so, he or she must evoke some technique of ecstasy to soar away on the wings of trance, to get into the distant metaphysical realms where he or she can work their deeds of medical, magical, mystical rescue. And that accounts for one of the most curious anomalies in botanical science, that of the 125 known hallucinogenic plants, fully 95% are from the Americas, not because the rainforests of equatorial West Africa or Southeast Asia are depauperate, but simply because the people there found other avenues to the divine, as we'll see in a moment. But in the Amazon and throughout the Americas, the route to the Godhead was mediated by these curious plants, such as this one, in a photograph taken by Professor Schultes in the 1950s. Ébène, the semen of the sun, derived from the blood-red resin of several species in the genus Virola in the nutmeg family. These powders seen here used by the Yanomami are chock full of tryptamines, dimethyltryptamine, 5-methoxy-dimethyltryptamine. To have this stuff blown up your nose is rather like being shot out of a rifle barrel lined with Baroque paintings and landing on a sea of electricity. It creates not the distortion of reality, it creates a total disillusion of reality. In fact, I used to argue with Schultes that you couldn't classify this as hallucinogenic because by the time you were under the influence, there was no one home anymore to experience the hallucinations. But what draws us to these plants are not simply their dazzling pharmacological effects, but more importantly, what they tell us about a different way of knowing.